The process is a topic I could talk about for hours on end, and quite honestly, I have. You can't talk about the Philadelphia 76ers and not bring up the process. In what capacity to discuss it may vary, but it's unavoidable. The Sixers have not made it past the second round of the NBA playoffs since they lost in the finals in 2001, and most notably, they've made the playoffs the past 7 years in a row, losing in the first round twice, including this year, and losing in the second round 5 times. Each year, we get people saying the most repetitive, unintelligent, buzzwordy things ever, like, is this the end of the process? Is the process over? Was the process a failure? I think people who say silly things like that each year don't really know what they're talking about, and it's just their way to either get views, stir the pot, or simply rip the Sixers. The 2024 76ers are not part of the process, they're rather the result of a failed process. In this video, I'll discuss what the process was, the key elements of it, and the ramifications of it. Like I said, I could talk about this forever, but I do read the YouTube analytics and see nobody wants to hear me talk about anything for more than like 12 minutes or so I'll try to keep this simple and get right into it. But first, if at any point you enjoy what you're watching, be sure to leave a like on the video, subscribe for more, and comment your thoughts or opinions. Now, let's trust the process. As for when it occurred, well, it's kind of like the Cold War. It's up for debate in that sense, and in terms of the end date, that is. The start date is easy. It's when Sam Hinkie was hired as the Sixers general manager during the 2013 offseason. It may have ended as soon as 2016 or extended a little longer, maybe around 2018, but by the end of the 2019 to 2020 season, it was certainly over. I'm in the camp that it ended in 2016, and there's specific reasons why I mentioned each of those years, but for the purpose of this video, I'll get to the landmark event that occurred in 2016. The plan, or the process, was simple. Lose. Lose, lose, and lose some more. The more losses you pile up, the better draft pick you receive. Hinkie took over a team that was not good. They had just missed the playoffs after making them the past 2 years, and their core was a young Jrue Holiday, Evan Turner, and Thaddeus Young, all of which were former first-round picks by the Sixers. Holiday had just made an all-star game, while the other two weren't panning out just yet, so Hinkie made the most of the situation. His first order of business was trading Holiday to the Pelicans for the 6th overall pick, center Nerlens Noel, as well as a first-rounder next year. They also drafted Michael Carter-Williams, so we're getting some early process legends here in MCW and Noel. Nerlens missed the entirety of the next season with a knee injury, while MCW won Rookie of the Year, so at this point, if you look back at it, the Sixers were kinda in great shape. After a 19-win season, they secured the 3rd overall pick and drafted Joel Embiid, a 7-footer out of Kansas, with an injury history and boatloads of potential. Hinkie also used the first-round pick they got out of the Noel trade a year ago to make another trade that would get the Sixers Dario Saric, a player who was under contract with a European team and would play for the Sixers eventually.
By the way, Saric isn't going to be here for at least 2 years.
Oh, they're going to get Dario Saric. Well, he's not going to come back till at least 2017, 2018.
Saric is staying in Turkey because in 2 years he has no rookie wage scale. And he may never come over.
That sort of sums up the beginnings of the process. Lose, get early draft picks, draft players that will not help the team immediately, and sell high on talent when you can, like they did with Holiday, and they did with Michael Carter-Williams midway through his sophomore year. MCW was shipped off in a 3-team trade where the Sixers only got a 2018 first-rounder, a pick 3 years down the line, again epitomizing what the process was. It is a process, after all. Immediate results were not to be expected. A quote from Hinkie once read, "A league with 30 intense competitors requires a culture of finding new, better ways to solve repeating problems. In the short term, investing in that sort of innovation often doesn't look like much progress, if any. Abraham Lincoln said, 'Give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, and I will spend the first 4 sharpening the axe.'" The next season was an 18-win season, earning themselves the 3rd overall pick yet again. And this season here, the 2014-15 season, this is where things got really fun, and Sam Hinkie was like, yeah, we're losing, we're doing it on purpose, and I'm going to throw it in your face. Like when they signed Tim Frazier to a 10-day contract and subsequently started playing him 29 minutes a game. He was actually doing fine. He was averaging over 5 points and 7 assists per game, and then they just let his 10-day contract run out and didn't bring him back. They traded for Andrei Kirilenko and then immediately suspended him when he didn't show up, and then he never ended up playing a game for the Sixers and retired. Tony Roten and Lukemba Mute were playing 30 minutes a game, and this was the genesis of process legends like Robert Covington, Ish Smith, and Isaiah Cannon, and so on. So, no offense to those guys, but you can see why they won 18 games. Tony Roten was their leading scorer with 17 points per game, so shout out Tony Roten for that. In the 2015 draft, they took Jahlil Okafor with the third pick, a center out of Duke, which was maybe the first time you could argue that wasn't the best move they made. But the 2015 draft was not very good. I'm not sure what other player they could have selected. Kristaps Porzingis went to the Knicks with the next pick, but the biggest issue with the Okafor selection was that 3 years in a row now, the Sixers had acquired a center early in the draft. Embiid missed all of the 2014-15 season, and then he would miss all of the 2015-16 season. But in the 15-16 season, Okafor and Noel didn't exactly gel together, and then it was kind of just like an impending grand piano hanging over the Sixers' head for when they would add another 7-footer to the mix. They would just have a logjam at the center position, and it felt like Hinkie was just acquiring talent, and since he had no plans of winning games anytime soon, he assumed they'd figure out the specifics later. Okafor was quite a bust, though I was a huge fan of him, but out of all the players selected in the 2015 draft, as of today, he ranks 27th in career points scored, and he's even well behind Richaun Holmes, who the Sixers selected in the second round. The 2015-16 season was one of those landmark dates I mentioned earlier as the end of the process, and here's why. The Sixers started the season an impressive 0-18. They picked up a win, and then after losing 3 more, with a 1-21 record, the Sixers hired highly acclaimed basketball executive Jerry Colangelo as chairman of basketball operations. It was kind of a weird move. For one, he was 75 years old at the time, and for two, it's not like he was going to make the Sixers a playoff team all of a sudden. We knew the plan was to lose. The team was literally built to lose. It wasn't going to be fun, but a 1-21 start was exactly what Sam Hinkie wanted. It was perfect. The problem is, it's not what the NBA wanted. The Sixers were 2-30 at one point and finished 10-72, the worst record in an 82-game NBA season, except for the 1973 Sixers, ironically, who only won 9 games. On April 6, 2016, Sam Hinkie stepped down, and he did so with an absolute heater of a resignation letter that at one point read, "In May of 1969, a 38-year-old Warren Buffett sat down at a typewriter to inform his investors that he was closing his fund. His reason, market conditions were such that he no longer had the requisite confidence that he could make good decisions on behalf of the investors and deliver on his commitments to them. So he would stop investing on their behalf. For me, that's today. Given all the changes to our organization, I no longer have the confidence that I can make good decisions on behalf of investors in the Sixers. You. So I should step down, and I have." What a way to leave. He basically said, "I had a plan, you ruined it, and now I'm done." And Hinkie rode off into the sunset, never to be seen again, becoming a martyr for Sixers fans and players. That's really the end of the process right there.
While Hinkie was looking down, the colangelo stole his thorny crown. The process was adjourned. Hinkie never returned, and while we finally waved, Jakar, Kwame Brown practiced in the park, and we counted pick swaps in the dark. The day the process died.
Hinkie created the process and carried it out. Without Hinkie, there is no process. The Sixers took Ben Simmons number 1 overall in 2016, played competitive basketball during the 2016-17 season, then took Markelle Fultz number 1 overall, courtesy of a Sam Hinkie contingency plan that featured a pick swap. But nothing after the 10-72 season was Hinkie's work. That's what people seem to struggle to understand, and it may not even be a lack of understanding, maybe just a lack of knowledge. Hinkie didn't draft Simmons. He didn't draft Fultz or anyone else. He laid the groundwork for most of their picks, which they messed up, of course. The 2018 first-rounder he got from Michael Carter-Williams was used to draft Mikal Bridges, who was quickly traded for Zaire Smith, who played a total of 13 NBA games. The weirdest part of the whole thing was what transpired when Bryan Colangelo took over, the son of Jerry Colangelo, which made the whole plan entirely obvious that the only reason Jerry was brought in was to kick out Hinkie and give his son Bryan the job. But Bryan's burner account mishap, shall we call it, is a topic for another video another day. That does it for this one. I said I wouldn't talk about the process ad nauseum, and I probably did. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you stuck around this long, I appreciate it. Remember to leave a like, comment your favorite player from the process era, and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching. See you next time.
Mr. Tall Lanky Guy drove my cargo to the Fargo, but the little took a stride. Them good old Hinkies drinking, Willie's a ride singing. This will be the day the process died. Oh, this will be the day the process died.